The following program, Live and Learn, is made possible by Aging Partners. Find out more on their website at agingpartners@lincoln.ne.gov.
Hi, I'm Lita Powell Drake, and fire is everyone's fight. Join us today on Live and Learn as we tell you how you can get a free smoke alarm from the Lincoln Fire Department. Stay tuned.
This is the beginning of my 4-segment series on Alzheimer's disease. I'm Kristen Stowes, and today I welcome Natalie Leon from the Alzheimer's Association, who will lay the groundwork for understanding this debilitating disease.
Hi, I'm Chris Beckenbaugh. My guest today is Lisa Gennaro. We're going to discuss continence products and their availability to those who could use them in our community.
Hello, I'm Tom White. Lincoln Mayor Chris Beitler has announced the new director of Aging Partners. His name is Randy Jones, and he'll be my guest today. We'll find out more about Randy. Stay tuned.
This and more on today's Live and Learn.
The Lincoln Fire Department has been serving Lincoln since 1896. Oh, there have been a lot of changes since then, one of which is smoke alarms. Now, I wonder, do you have a smoke alarm at home? How many do you have? And do they work? Well, I want you to meet Jamie Bray, who is a firefighter here in Lincoln, Nebraska, station number 5 in Havelock. And you're kind of in charge of these, aren't you, my dear?
I take care of the smoke alarm program that Lincoln Fire and Rescue has. Yes.
All right, now, you got a grant from somebody. Where did you get the grant?
The grant was provided by the Department of Homeland Security. It was funded through FEMA. We received $140,000 to purchase 3,200 smoke alarms and 200 deaf and hard of hearing alarms. And that's for a designated area in the downtown, near South and Capitol View neighborhoods.
Okay, well now how do people get these smoke alarms?
Well, there's one of 3 different ways to request the smoke alarms and to request the safety information. The first is to call myself at 402-441-7779.
And we'll put that on the screen at the end so you can copy it down.
You can leave a message there at that phone number. I'm not there every day, and I'm rarely there to answer it, so I will return your call when I get back to the station. The second option is to email me at jbray@lincoln.ne.gov, and I will return that email within more than likely a week. If I'm off on my days off, I'll return it as soon as I get back. The last option was just through an online form. It's at fire.lincoln.ne.gov, and there's a symbol there on the home page that says request a smoke alarm here. If you click on that link, it'll take you to a page where you can fill out all the information that we need, and once you complete that, that'll go directly to myself, and then I'll contact you to set up a time to come over and to evaluate what you have and provide you some smoke alarms.
Jamie, who's eligible?
So the grant is designated towards a certain geographical area between L Street and South, and between 13th and 27th. So within that geographical area, we're focusing on new Americans, older adults, children, as well as minority households. So within that area, we're also focusing on a smaller, a smaller number of people that may not have the resources to be able to have smoke alarms in their home or purchase smoke alarms.
And what about people who live outside that area? Are they eligible?
So with the grant, like I said, those funds are designated towards that area. But outside of that area, Lincoln Fire and Rescue also understands that there's a lot of people that need smoke alarms that may not be able to purchase them themselves or even install them themselves. So we also provide smoke alarms to residents outside of that area, and that's been going on for years. So we'll provide residents anywhere in the city, we'll provide them up to 2 free smoke alarms, and then also go through their home and provide them some safety information on how to make their home a little bit safer.
All right, let's take a look at some of the smoke alarm that will be available. One looks like, is that an older version?
This is the standard smoke alarm that most people have in their homes, or one very similar to this. there's several different brands, but this is typically what one would look like. With this smoke alarm, most people are familiar with these 9-volt batteries. So with the older standard smoke alarm, you'd have to replace your battery once every year at minimum. The newer smoke alarms that we provide.
Well, wait. Now let's go back
Sure.
to that one, because I've got one like that.
Okay.
And I did not realize that it beeps
Right.
when your battery's going down. And
Right.
I remember I was in the kitchen and I heard this beep and I had no idea what it was, and I was going all over the house like, what is that? I didn't know whether it was the stove or
Right.
and I didn't think to look up, and I didn't know about the beep. So are the beeps in that and in the new, and what do they mean, and
So
how often do they come?
Every manufacturer has different beeps, and they each mean different things. But a good way to tell is on the back. You take it off your ceiling, and there's typically a paragraph.
Which you can't read because it's so small.
It is very small print, but there is a paragraph, or there's just like a little, like some bullets that explain what the different beeps are. So in this case, an intermittent chirp like you were hearing would mean either a low battery or trouble, and it says see your owner's manual. So if you changed your battery and the beep went away, I would say you solved your problem.
Okay, is there a date somewhere on the battery, or on the unit, that people can really tell as to how long it's going to last?
There is. So there's a printed date on all smoke alarms that are past 2002, that are manufactured on past 2002. So this one was manufactured on March 29th, 2011. So 10 years from this date, this smoke alarm should be replaced.
But the battery's not lasting that long.
The batteries
No,
only
okay.
last a year, unless you have a long life battery, which can last up to 10 years. They are quite a bit more expensive, so you'll know whether or not you're purchasing a long life or a standard alkaline battery. But back to the date. So beginning in 2002, as I said, all manufacturers of any smoke alarm were required to put dates on their smoke alarms when they were manufactured. And this is because smoke alarms have a life expectancy of only 10 years. So the sensors may actually go bad, and actually they also get dirty. They get dust and stuff up in there. So the sensors can get basically just dirty and not be as quick to detect a fire as a newer smoke alarm. So if you're looking on the back here and you just cannot find a date at all, that's because it's really old.
Or you can't see it because it's so small.
Right.
Get your magnifying glasses out.
Right, yeah, you may need to really look for it. So it'll be in plain English. At one point in time, they had codes. They were putting codes on their smoke alarms, and the new requirement stated it had to be in plain English. So you'll see that date on there. If it's 10 years old, it needs to be replaced. If there's no date, it needs to be replaced.
Okay. Oh,
So-
this is the newer one, right?
So, right. So like I said, this is the standard smoke alarm that most people have in their homes. This is the one that we are going to provide. It is a little bit smaller, but the biggest difference is the battery pack. So this battery is designed to last 10 years. It's actually designed to go in the smoke alarm one time. So I would get it lined up. Once I push it in, it starts its life. There's still a date on the back that you should replace it by, or there's the date of manufacturer. But as soon as this starts having that low battery beep, that means you completely remove this from service and throw it away and replace it with a new one.
Now, it looks so much smaller than the other one. Can you still use the base on which it rests?
Right.
They're the same size, really, but the unit is smaller.
Most smoke alarms, if you can see this base here, there's multiple points at where you can actually screw it into your ceiling or wall. Okay. So whether it's an old one or a new one, the the holes or the screws are designed to be able to fit interchangeably.
Okay, there's the opportunity to get one of the new ones, and of course for the hard of hearing. That's pretty fancy looking. How does this one work?
This is a deaf and hard of hearing alarm. It's designed by Lifetone. We've had a really good relationship with their company. They provide a very good product for those that are deaf and hard of hearing. This actually works in conjunction with a standard smoke alarm, whether it be this one or this one. On most of the newer smoke alarms, it sends out a very distinct signal. It's called a T3 signal. This picks that signal up, and when it hears that T3 signal, it actually makes this alarm go off. When this alarm goes off, it's going to state really loudly, "Fire, fire, get out." And it's also going to provide a lower pitched alarm that's designed to be more effective for those that are hard of hearing. And then the other way that it's going to alert somebody in the event of a fire is through this little disc. This vibrates, so it has quite a bit of cord. It just plugs into the back, but it has a lot of cord.
And you put that under your pillow?
And you put this under your pillow or your mattress.
So if you didn't hear it, it's going to vibrate.
It's going to
let
vibrate.
you know.
Additionally, this can also be used as an alarm clock. So it has two purposes.
Very good. Now, what about putting it up in the ceiling? What if you can't really get up there yourself and do it?
If you're unable to put a smoke alarm up and you have them, Lincoln Fire would be happy to come and replace them. The only thing we're not allowed to touch is those that are directly wired into ceilings. So if you have a whole house system, we can't replace it, but we would just put 2 new alarms up for you.
Okay. How often do you change your battery? Did you mention that?
You're supposed to change your batteries at least once per year.
Okay.
So, and you're supposed to test them at least once a month, and some manufacturers require at least every week.
And here's one problem, and I think many of us have: we stick too many cords in that, and we overload it. I mean, since you got all those holes there, what's wrong with sticking a plug in every one?
It's all dependent on how much the actual power strip or how much it can handle. So basically, you do not want that getting warm because when it gets warm, the wires they start to break down the insulation, and that's where you can have that's where you can potentially have a fire. So even though there's a lot of holes there, it's not recommended to actually fill them, and especially with things that require a lot of electricity.
Okay, and should you put the smoke detector or by the bed or the smoke alarm?
A standard smoke alarm or
either.
The standard smoke alarms, you want them in your bedroom. This is the new recommendations. You want one in every bedroom, one outside of every sleeping area, as well as one on every floor of the home, including the basement. So on a single story, you'd have, it depends on the number of rooms, but you could have up to 5 smoke alarms in your home easily.
All right, and of course one big other danger is cooking. That's really frightening. And do you have a fire extinguisher at home, just in case, and is it working? Okay, now just a quick reminder, if you want to apply for a smoke alarm, phone number is 402-441-7779. and leave a message for him, or you can email him at jbray, J-B-R-A-Y, at lincoln.ne.gov, or go online to fire.lincoln.ne.gov and request a smoke alarm. That's really a very simple way to do it. Remember, a fire is everyone's fight. Our thanks to firefighter Jamie Bray. You're doing a great job, and you're going to be very busy. And when can people start applying for this?
They can apply for them right now. We'll actually begin installations in March. So we'll take all the information right now, and we'll hold on to that, and then we'll start making phone calls in March.
Okay, thank you, Jamie Bray, Lincoln firefighter. And remember, it's never too late to live and learn more about smoke alarms.
Alzheimer's disease, a difficult diagnosis to receive, not only for the patient, but also for family and friends who are caregivers. I'm Kristen Stows, and I am pleased to have Natalie Leon from the Nebraska chapter of the Alzheimer's Association. Welcome, Natalie.
Thank you.
So glad you could be here today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I understand your interest in working with Alzheimer's disease has developed over a period of years. Tell us a little bit of the history there.
Well, I actually started in high school, and I've been in healthcare for over 10 years now. I started off as a CNA and medication aide, and my first job was working in an Alzheimer's unit. And that was the first time I've ever been experienced to the disease. And I was just really intrigued about the disease and the effects on the brain. And I really enjoyed working with the patients and the caregivers.
That's wonderful. So you're working with a passion.
Yes.
And I like that a lot. Could you please define Alzheimer's disease for us?
Yeah. So Alzheimer's disease is a form of dementia. It is the most common form of dementia, which makes up 60 to 80% of all cases. So over 5.3 million people have Alzheimer's disease in the United States alone. And what Alzheimer's means is that it's a brain disease that causes issues with memory, thinking, and behavior. It is a progressive disease, which means it gradually gets worse over time. So every 67 seconds, someone is diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease.
Really?
And Alzheimer's has no cure, no prevention, or slowdown. So it is fatal.
Oh, it's devastating. It truly is. What is the typical age that symptoms first appear?
Well, your greatest risk factor is age. And so 1 out of 9 over the age of 65 develop this disease. And then it goes to 1 out of 3 over the age of 85. So you can clearly see it's an age-related disease. Now, women do have a higher chance of developing Alzheimer's disease because we tend to live longer. However, men are starting to close that gap.
Okay, those are important facts to know. Do we really know what causes Alzheimer's disease?
Well, what scientists know is that Alzheimer's involves progressive brain failure. And why these cells die off or fail, we're not really quite sure. But what we do know is that these brain cells lose communication and they lose their ability to do their job. So they end up dying off, and that's what causes the shrinkage of the brain. And what we also know is Alzheimer's is not a normal part of aging.
And that is important to remember. There are some myths about Alzheimer's disease. Can you talk about a couple of those?
Sure. One myth is only older people get Alzheimer's disease. There is a younger onset Alzheimer's disease, and that usually starts under the age of 65. And what we know about younger onset, it is more rapid, and so their life expectancy is more shorter than the later onset, which is 65 or above. Another myth is that treatments will help slow down the disease progression, and that's not accurate. What they do is they can actually help mental clarity for a year to a year and a half, but after that it just levels off and they help maintain whatever stage they are in the disease process.
I see.
Even though the disease still continues on. So you still see that decline, but it helps them maintain at the highest level.
I see, okay. We are going to put on screen the 10 signs of early detection for Alzheimer's disease, and I believe you will comment on each one of those for us.
Yes, so the most common early symptom for Alzheimer's disease is difficulty remembering newly learned information. And so your first warning sign is memory loss that disrupts daily life. So that's a big indicator. Another one is rapidly or repeatedly asking the same questions over and over again.
Okay.
Number 2, challenges in planning or solving problems. Here, it's usually they're taking longer to do those activities, which kind of leads into difficulty completing familiar tasks at home or work. It's something that's taking them longer. Usually it would take them only 30 minutes, is now taking 3 to 4 hours.
So it's a definite change.
Yes, absolutely. The 4th is confusion with place or time.
Okay.
So here they lose a sense of time. And the biggest one is, seasons of time. It starts going to years after that. And so that's a big indicator as well. Trouble with understanding visual images and spatial relationships. Here, this is usually affected by or driving is usually affected at this point.
Sure.
And
yes.
I've had caregivers say, my loved one doesn't know what color to stop at a stoplight. And so they'll just stop at every stoplight because they don't remember if it's red or if it's yellow or if it's green that they have to stop. So new problems with words in speaking and or writing. So here it could be calling something the wrong name, like a watch is a hand clock. They're not able to make that distinction anymore. Misplacing things or losing the ability to trace steps. The last part of this, the retrace steps, is the biggest one. When we lose something, we're able to recall the steps that we have taken. But for somebody who has Alzheimer's disease, they're not able to recall that. And so this is where you see them really talk about accusing people of stealing things or maybe misplacing things because they honestly can't remember that they ended up setting it somewhere differently.
And in the misplacing of things, everybody misplaces things.
Absolutely.
But is it more that if you end up finding this item someplace that it really should not belong, like your reading glasses are in the freezer, that this is a real disconnect then?
Yeah, absolutely. And it has to deal with retracing your steps. If you had something in your hands and set that down, not really thinking about what you had in your hands, you just trying to frame up and then later come back and say, oh my goodness, I remember I put this here. That's the biggest distinction, is the recall.
Okay.
Decreased or poor judgment. Here you can see whether it's large sum of money going to telemarketers. That's a big indication, is misplace of financial funds can be an indicator. Withdraw from work or spatial or social activities. Some people are able to realize that there is something wrong, and so you'll see that withdraw because they don't want to see, they don't want others to see that there's an issue. And then the last one is changes in mood and personality. This disease is 80% behaviors, so you'll see a lot of different personality changes, whether it's confusion, anxious, or suspicious. You'll start to see an element of different emotions.
And some of these signs the patient can probably recognize in themselves, whereas some of them may be able to take someone else to see it in the patient.
Well,
is this true?
It really depends on the individual.
Okay.
The saying is, if you know somebody with Alzheimer's disease, you only know one person with Alzheimer's disease, and each person is a little bit different. And some people are aware that they do have memory issues, and then others do not. And it really plays a fact of where they are in the disease process too.
Yes, certainly, I can understand that. Why is early detection and diagnosis important?
Well, with any diagnosis, early treatment is better, no matter what it is. And so it's really important to make sure that you get an accurate diagnosis and start that early treatment. And for Alzheimer's disease, it's really about planning, making sure what your journey ahead looks like and making sure you have all those parts in place.
And for an Alzheimer's patient, doing that early is paramount.
Yes, absolutely. The earlier
in
the disease process, they're able to really
look ahead for themselves.
Look ahead and participate with their family members
Yes.
and kind of voice what they
that
would
would
like
be very
to see.
important. Let's talk a little bit about the patient evaluation and assessment.
Sure.
Where should someone start if they're thinking they might have Alzheimer's signs?
Well, there's no single test that determines Alzheimer's disease. It is a rule-out disease. And so the first step is going to your primary care physician. From there, they can do some testing, but they usually will refer you on to a neurologist or a geriatrician to get further testing done. And what they tend to look at is a multitude of different elements. And so it's really vital to make sure you have all of those pieces in place. So the first area that they look at is your medical history. They look at the individual's medical history to see if they have any heart disease, because heart disease actually does play an effect. If you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, stroke, diabetes, it gives you a higher risk for developing Alzheimer's disease, because you have to think of it, your brain and heart have a huge connection between the two. And if your heart has some implications on it, it's going to have some implications on your brain, because your brain is being nourished by your heart.
Makes sense.
And so another element is a mental status exam. So here is usually the mini mental. They do a lot of mathematics, word problems, and that's only used as a baseline. It really is to get a good grasp of where the patient is at that time. It should not be the only test that a physician does. And a physical is another part. Here they're looking at, is it something that's causing these memory problems? Is it something that's treatable? Like certain infections can cause memory issues, like a urinary tract infection or pneumonia. Also, vitamin deficiencies can play a huge role.
And wouldn't it be a huge relief to hear that it is something that can actually be fixed?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's not Alzheimer's at all.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's almost a no-brainer. Why not?
Absolutely.
But also, you know, if you have two medicines that are not supposed to be used with each other, that can cause some cognitive memory issues as well.
Very good.
Another element is a psychiatric evaluation, where they look at you know, mental disorders. Is there depression that's going on? Because depression can actually mimic the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. And once you get on the proper medication, a lot of those mental clarities can be fixed. And then neurological is the last piece. They're looking at, you know, not only a scan of the brain, which usually is an MRI, to see is there a brain tumor, is there fluid in the brain that's causing these issues. They also look at your nervous system.
So there's many pieces of the puzzle here.
Yes.
Yes. And it's important to be diagnosed by a physician.
Yes.
To the correct form of dementia or not, which would be what you would want to hear. Is there hopeful research being done?
Absolutely. All of our research is really geared towards prevention, and that stems from the heart disease, all the research that has been done there. They know, what we know now is if we can prevent a stroke from happening or a heart attack from happening, that damage that has been done, it's so hard to reverse those effects that on the damage that has been done to whether it's the heart or the brain. So we know if we can prevent it, the better. And so that's exactly what Alzheimer's research is going towards, is can we prevent somebody from getting this disease or at least slow it down?
Yes.
And so it's really interesting the different types of research that is going on in that
Well, that's
area.
wonderful to hear. That's very hopeful. Just a quick word, how important is good nutrition, good exercise, good sleeping habits in controlling symptoms?
Yes, absolutely. So physical exercise, that is number one. If you don't do any of the others, that is actually extremely key to making sure that you keep a healthy brain. Along with diet. Diet is very much important. Making sure that you are taking care of your body. Social engagement is another piece.
That's huge, I know.
Yes, a lot of elderly don't get that. That's missing out of their realm, and so they need to make sure that they are mentally stimulated as well as socially stimulated.
Yes, I understand. Well, I'm sorry, Natalie, our time is at an end, so we are going to be putting on screen the Alzheimer's hotline number. 24/7 people can call with questions or crisis situations.
Yes, yep, it will get you to a medical staff, a medical licensed staff, and they can help you if you're in a crisis, if you have a question, you know, if something comes up at 2 a.m., they would be the person to call.
Oh, it's wonderful to know that you are there.
Yeah.
And thank you for being with us today, and thank you for helping so many people who are battling this disease.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I am going to continue to explore the subject of Alzheimer's disease and will concentrate on caregiving in future segments. Please watch for those, and always remember, it's never too late to live and learn.
Hi, I'm Chris Beckenbaugh. My guest today is Lisa Gennaro with New Style Medical Supplier, and she and I are going to discuss continence products. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you.
Has there been any new products that have become available over the last few years that our viewers might not be aware of?
No, not really. They're pretty much the same as far as products that they can use out there that are, you know, available for people that aren't as incontinent would be like the pull-ups, you know, standard pull-up product.
Okay.
Looks like an underwear.
All right.
And then, of course, just a regular pad that will go into somebody's underwear.
Okay.
Or brief.
Okay.
And they've got, you know, some for men too. And then, of course, if they're heavily incontinent, they have the brief with the tabs.
Okay.
And then they also do have booster pads now that are a flow-through. So if somebody is very incontinent, it absorbs a lot more.
So they don't have to change as frequently?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
And I don't know a lot about this, Lisa, but what might a product, let's say the pads, cost on a monthly basis? Do you have any idea?
Well, the nice thing is that if you have a lower income and you need help, the state of Nebraska does help with that, state Medicaid.
That's good to know.
And a lot of people aren't aware of that. And it's just not for the elderly. Of course, we have children and all the way up to the elderly. But the state of Nebraska does help those people that are in need of those type of products.
And that's through the Medicaid program?
Correct.
Right, not to be confused with Medicare.
Right, not to be confused with Medicare.
Okay.
We, of course, first get a prescription from the doctor. That they have to have that. And then we just ship them, or our pharmacy can even help them out. Anybody really can, as long as they have that script, and they will get supplies of what they just need, not more than what they need, of course.
So for about a month at a time?
Month at a time.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And I want people to understand that as long as they have this help available to them, to utilize it. A lot of people don't utilize the help because they're either embarrassed or they don't want to, you know, we don't want to use the state's money, but that's what it's there for. And if people don't utilize it, they will, you know, they're using other things instead of incontinence supplies, which can lead to a lot of health issues also.
Like what kind of health issues might arise, Lisa?
Well, you know, a lot of people will sometimes use the same pad over and over, and it can lead to bladder infection, pressure sores, all kinds of health issues that even lead to bigger problems, and that's what we want to avoid.
Right, so we don't want skin breakdown or infection,
Right.
because that can be really difficult to treat.
Exactly.
Do you think maybe sometimes having a continence issue is a barrier to people being social and getting out?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You know, I think people are embarrassed, and but like there again, I got to say, it's not just an elderly issue. It's women have it, especially after having babies and whatever. So there are products out there, though, that will allow them to get out of the house, that are, that they can use and even take with them, that they don't have to undo their whole outfit to change if they have to.
Well, that's good to know.
Yes.
That really is good to know. And it seems like the fibers or whatever the absorbent material is getting thinner, so they aren't as bulky maybe as they have been
Right.
in the past.
And there is some confusion with that because people think, oh, it's not, so bulky, so it's not going to work. Basically, what the manufacturers are using is, and they've always used, is polymers. And that is actually what causes the absorption and helps to keep the odor down. And so they don't have to worry about that either. So just because it is thinner doesn't mean it's not as absorbent.
Mm-hmm.
Those polymers actually are phenomenal.
So besides your local pharmacy, there are companies like yours that will ship to people.
Correct.
And so they come in a plain package just
Right.
to your doorstep? And
Yeah, basically, like I said, either, the doctor or a loved one or a case manager, anybody can contact us. Or, like I said, other companies like myself, and we get the prescription for them, and then we do deliver them to their home. So they don't feel like they got to go out and be embarrassed going into a store, which a lot of people do feel that way, especially men.
Right.
And so, yeah, we deliver them right to the door, and they're in brown boxes, so nobody knows what you're getting. So, and
Great.
like I said, there's other companies out there, so utilize them.
Especially if you're in a rural area that may not, the local store may not carry the supplies that you need.
And that's true. There's a lot of pharmacies right now, or stores that are not carrying them, just because, with some of the new changes that have come up, it's a little more difficult to implement the changes, so some places aren't even carrying them anymore. So, but myself, and I know there's a couple other places that do ship all over the state of Nebraska
That's a
to
great
those
service.
rural areas. So I just don't want people thinking that, I can't utilize companies like that, because that's what we're here for. That's what the state's for.
That's a great service
Yeah.
to people. You do have a larger brief there, and I'm not familiar with how you mentioned maybe there's tabs on there. Or
Yeah, this particular one, and like I said, this is just, samples of just a few things you can use.
Sure.
Typically what I tell people that, that are heavily incontinent is use the pull-up during the day, the one that looks just like an underwear.
Okay.
Use that one during the day, so you can get out, get around, do what you need to do. And then use the brief at night if you're having problems meeting the requirements as far as going over the allowables. And so if you use the brief at night, it will hold more. And then, like I said, you can get I didn't bring one with me this time, but a booster pad that goes inside of one of these, so you're not having to get up every 2 hours at night.
And this is going to stay feeling dry.
This will
so
stay
you're not
feeling
going to wake
dry.
up.
Right, and like I
Okay.
said, with the booster pad, it goes right inside and helps with the extra absorbency because it flows right through to the brief. And this would be good to use at night. That way you're not having to get up.
Sure, and it looks like these tabs are fairly wide and easy to handle.
They are.
So even with somebody who's got some maybe manual dexterity or some arthritis challenges, they could still get these on and off really easily, and they're not going to stick to your skin.
Right.
They're not going to
Right.
cause any
Yeah.
kind of problems for
and
you.
they're reusable.
Also, they're
The
like
tabs,
Velcro.
They're like Velcro.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
And and you might get some that are tape, but the tape ones do the same thing.
Great.
So you'll get a different. They all do about the same thing.
So I think what I'm hearing you say is don't be ashamed or embarrassed. Live your life. Get the products you
Yes.
need, and then get out and enjoy your life.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, Lisa, it's been great of you to come and
Thank
share.
you. Appreciate you having me.
And remember, it's never too late to live and learn.
Hi, I'm Tom White, and my guest today is Randy Jones. Randy is the new director of Aging Partners. Randy is a native of Lincoln. He worked for 34 years for the Red Cross, both at the local level and at the national level. He's a graduate of Wesleyan College, and welcome to Aging Partners.
Thank
and
you.
welcome to Live and Learn.
Thank you.
Glad you're here.
It's exciting to be here.
So tell us about growing up in Lincoln.
Well, what a great place to grow up in, right? Grew up in Northeast Lincoln. I was one of the last classes in the old Bethany elementary school off of Cotner, and but went to Northeast High School. Spent my childhood in Lincoln. It was really exciting. I was actually planning on moving on into the ministry after college, and decided at the last minute that that was not the best route for me to go. So I started doing some volunteer work, and I volunteered for the Red Cross and thought to myself, gosh, this is wonderful work. If I can get paid to do this and do it at the same time, what a great career.
And what year did you start with the Red Cross?
That would be 1982.
Okay. And at what capacity were you?
I started, let's see, the Red Cross has such a diversity of programming. It provides services to the military in terms of support services. And my first job was at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, which is a Marine base. And I was positioned there, and we delivered emergency messages to soldiers. So in the good times, you deliver a birth message and say, you know, you're a new father. In the sad times, you would deliver a message about the death of a family member. So I did that for a year, and couldn't stand the separation between myself and my high school sweetheart, so I came back to get married, and then started working for the local Red Cross.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And how did you, and so you moved up the ranks, obviously, because...
I did, and I moved it, my career moved me to many different communities across the Midwest. I was here in Lincoln for 3 years after that move from North Carolina in a disaster emergency response capacity, responding to fires and larger disasters. I moved down to Kansas City and spent a few years down there, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Colorado Springs, Colorado, where I was CEO there. And then I was very fortunate that the Lincoln CEO position opened up in 1997, and I moved back here and was CEO here for 17 years.
And so you've been here ever since, or did you?
Been living in Lincoln ever since.
Okay.
4 years ago, the national organization recruited me to help them with their health and safety programs around the country. So I've been focused the last 4 years on our services throughout the country, most recently 10 states in the western U.S. We had a variety of programs that touched older citizens. We had a Lifeline program, which we also have here in Lincoln. We trained certified nurse assistants who work in nursing homes or home health care to provide care for the aging. And we certified them and tested them, and also some basic first aid and CPR training.
So that brings us to your new job, kind of. How are you? You've been about a week involved.
It's very exciting. I tell you, Aging Partners is well known in the community. They provide some great services, but I was very impressed with. Now that I've learned more about what the services are, I'm very impressed with the services and how it touches so many people. It's a real honor to be able to lead that organization, and the staff are so dedicated that it's going to be a fun ride.
So now, what is your vision for Aging Partners? What would you like to do?
Well, I think we have some real challenges ahead of us. The aging population as baby boomers get up, and you and I are in that category, unfortunately.
Speak for yourself.
I'm on the tail end. But that growth is moving into that time period of 65 plus, and that is going to create great demands on our community and also Aging Partners in terms of the services that are going to be needed for aging. So over the next 4 years, we expect about a 22% increase in the number of 65-year-olds in Lancaster County. That means that as an agency, we need to be prepared to meet that growing demand with limited resources that we have. and expand our services and programs. I think that the current plan to move into the Victory Park area is one way we can successfully work towards that. That's a very exciting plan, and I hope that that vision comes to fruition. So that's one of the visions, is to increase our growth and to have a very successful move into Victory Park when and if that happens. You know, the other vision is to utilize the changes in technology for helping people stay in their homes. The technology that is now available is just booming in terms of monitoring devices and tools that families can use to support their seniors who are living independently. And one of my goals is to increase education to the public about what those tools are and where they can access them so that they can use them. A couple examples would be certainly Lifeline, the I've fallen, I can't get up type of device. But they also have tools where a monitor will shut down an oven, for example, if there's a fire, or turn off burners when they're overheated. So fire prevention tools. There's tools where you can take your blood pressure and temperature, and that will electronically, by Bluetooth, go to software so family can monitor changes in health with their family members, and doctors can monitor it that way as well.
Instantaneously, I'm guessing?
Yes.
Or,
yeah. And there's also monitoring tools where family can know where their elderly person is using GPS, or whether they've gotten up in the morning and turned the lights on. And there's so many more tools that are being developed that I think will really change and allow seniors to remain in their home longer. And so
great.
Our goal is to educate the public about what those tools are.
Yeah, because I know that for seniors, independence is so valuable and so...
Absolutely,
yeah,
yes.
So now, what do you see as your first priority with the new job? Do you...
Well, first, you know, I've been in the position a week. First and foremost is understanding the organization, the agency, getting
the learning
to know.
curve.
Absolutely. And you know, my style and my attempt is to learn it from every angle, including being with our social workers in the field and meeting with clients and understanding what the clients' needs are. It's important that I have that full understanding before I start leading the agency down a path of any type of change. And there's some great programs that we will continue to offer, probably in the same way and very strongly. So I don't want to set ourselves up to major change, but I'm interested in learning the organization and then putting a vision out there afterwards.
What would you say you're most looking forward to on the new job?
I think touching just that interaction with the people we serve. Yeah. Yesterday I had lunch with a number of folks in our downtown center, and if you look into the eyes of the people that we're serving, it tells you a big story.
Volumes.
Yes, and I'm very humbled about the responsibility that Aging Partners has to take care of some very basic needs for people that are in great need of help, and the best way that I can learn is having that touch with the consumer, people that we're serving, understand their needs, and getting a sense of what we need to do in the future to continue to meet those needs.
That's terrific. So now we're taping this in mid-January, and I asked what the first few days on the job have been like, and can you say what you said outside, because I thought that was perfect. Sure.
It's like drinking from a fire hose. Is that what I said?
Yes.
Yeah. I suppose
that was a great line.
We don't experience that very often. Maybe it's similar to drinking from a garden hose. But anyway, so yeah, it's
pretty intense.
Very intense. Yeah. And like I said, I'm very impressed with the breadth of the services provided, and so I'm consuming all this information about what's happening with Aging Partners and the services we provide.
Yeah, taking it all in.
Yeah.
Taking it all in. Yeah, this, so a little bit, just to go back to the Red Cross a little bit. So the parallels between Red Cross and this new job, what would you say are there? Certainly the human aspect that you were talking about, the heart-to-heart.
Yes. Well, I think some of the similarities are that the people that we were serving at the Red Cross were often faced with sometimes their lowest point in their lives, whether it was they had a fire that destroyed everything they owned, to an elderly person in a home needing nursing care, and we were training the nurses to take care of that. So a lot of similarities in terms of meeting basic needs of people. You know, I administered very large pieces of the Red Cross organization, managed hundreds of people, and with an agency the size of Aging Partners, it will require that level of administration. And I think that the talents that you need to manage, say, within the Red Cross is you have to be a strong administrator, have a good business sense, but you've got to keep that human touch and human caring connected to that.
It's foundational.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the strength I think I bring to this role in being able to do both. Yeah.
That's great. So any final thoughts?
I consider the position, the trust that the City Council, the County Commissioners, and the Mayor have put in me in the position to be a gift. And I'm being presented a gift to manage and be a good steward of that. And what I'd like to do is have this kind of conversation here in a couple of years and have you say, job well done. And that's
well,
my
I'm
goal.
guessing you'll be on here probably before. I don't think it'll be a couple of years before you're on again.
Good, absolutely.
So it's been a pleasure meeting you,
Thanks,
Randy.
Tom.
My guest today has been Randy Jones, and he's the new Director of Aging Partners, and we're welcoming him with open arms. And my name is Tom White, and don't forget that it's never too late to live and learn.